In this episode, I will be doing a Q&A, so question and answer that I asked this week on Facebook and social media. I put the call out and I said I would choose the 10 best questions to complete in a Q&A. Now, some of the questions were really big and broad, which does make it a little bit more difficult. So those ones I haven't included, and I will be doing longer ones of those as maybe individual podcast episodes and or content and videos for my membership site. So if you're not a part of that, I would suggest jumping on that. It's like $2 a week and you get access to everything. Some of the content that isn't obviously shared on the podcast, more videos, everything like that's on there. So I'd highly suggest that if you are wanting in much more depth answers to your questions. Now, let's get into it. Welcome to the Breakthrough the Bullshit podcast. I am your host, Alice Round. I am pumped to have you here. We are going to really strip back all of the bullshit surrounding nutrition, training, fad diets, everything in the industry, so that we can give you education to get the best possible results. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and let's go through all this bullshit. So the first question that I have, and so to celebrate the 20th episode, I can't believe it's been 20 episodes. I think it's been about 3 or 4 weeks since the podcast officially started. And as I said, I'm continuing to pump out content. The goal is 3 times a week. And I've been pretty consistent with that, except for the week at Arnold. So I apologize for that. I think I got 2 out. So back on it this week. Loving doing these podcasts. If there's anything you want to see, people you want to hear me interview, I'm very open to ideas. But you're here because you want your questions answered. So I'm going to get stuck into it. Now, the first one is from Keith this was from my Facebook page. So thank you so much for your question, Keith. Now, Keith asked, when you're using MyFitnessPal and you enter your stats and goals, I'm guessing stats means stats, how accurate is the macros it gives you, and how should you use a different formula and adjust manually? All right, so pretty big question, but I will give you my general rule of thumb on this one. The goals that MyFitnessPal gives you, I never ever suggest clients use. The problem being with this, if you set your goal for say 10 kilos of fat loss and you then set that goal to achieve that within like 3 or 4 weeks, so you set it way too unreachable, it will completely drop the calories on your ass, which is not a good thing, and that's going to be a very extreme approach. It doesn't understand metabolism, it doesn't understand healthy fat loss. It's not going to tell you that goal is unreachable in that period of time. So I think the biggest thing with MyFitnessPal also is that it underestimates protein, because it's basically set with the Australian dietary guidelines. And the dietary guidelines and what MyFitnessPal sets up doesn't really take into account the amount of resistance training that a lot of people are doing in today's society, and that's a massive thing. So that's something that I want you to keep mindful of. Generally, the protein on MyFitnessPal will be way off, and that's something that you want to look at. I would say a better calculator to maybe use, that's a free one on the internet if you do want a free source, is something like the IAFYM calculator, and then going on that website and then using the macros it spits out to you on there to reset in your MyFitnessPal settings. At the end of the day, my biggest suggestion is hiring a coach to at least determine your baseline intakes, because they are going to be so important, and it's only really going to be like a coach or someone that's educated that can really understand your body. And if you're someone that, say, has a slow or fast metabolism, or you have injuries, or you have other variables going on, I can guarantee you that those macros it gives you probably won't be right. There'll either be too much food or not enough food. I find that MyFitnessPal definitely does not give enough food. I don't think MyFitnessPal knows how hard that we all train. So that's a massive one that I want you to be mindful of. Another option is I have an ebook that is Understanding Macros and Metabolism, so you can always grab a copy of that. It's super cheap. It's like $30, and it basically has everything in there on how to calculate your own macros. So I would use that book as a guide. It's on my website, and you can grab a copy, and then from there it also teaches you how to adjust them, because the other big question you asked was then how do you adjust them. Your macros are not set in stone, so your macros aren't going to be the same for the rest of your life. They're going to change based on your goals, based on whether you gain weight, lose weight, want to put on muscle, want to drop body fat. So my ebook kind of explains how you make changes, when you should make changes to your macros, and how that can all come together. So that's a really good tool if, say, you can't afford to actually hire a coach. I would definitely say that. But if you're someone that really, really needs help and you're a real novice to macros and everything, I would highly suggest working with a coach at least for a couple of months, or working in some sort of program that actually educates you on macronutrients. Because I think people forget that, like, it's not that simple. It actually, this is why people hire us as coaches, because it's not as simple as just using some free calculator to determine intakes. Like, if it was that easy, like, everyone would be using it and no one would be online coaches and all of that. So I would say get yourself educated first. If you are reasonably educated and you feel comfortable doing it on your own, then by all means use little things like IFYM, my macro book, all of that. But if you're a complete newbie, I would invest in a coach for at least a couple of months, give you a good baseline, and then you can kind of go from there. So I hope that helps with your question. All right, next question that I have, I posted a few in my client group as well on Facebook, and they wanted to give me a little bit of a challenge of some very big questions, but I'll answer them in brief. So I had a question from my client, Nicole, and she was basically saying that we were talking about strength, and she said that there's basically what she was asking in roundabout terms, very big question, but she was asking that when she's getting to low rep ranges, that she's struggling some weeks with hitting her numbers and other weeks having really good weeks when she goes into the gym. And she said, I know that sleep and nutrition and hydration is a factor, but some week I feel like the world's strongest woman, and others I feel like I've never lifted before. She finds it very unmotivating and not consistent. And she wanted to know, is this normal? It's funny how a lot of the time people ask questions and they'll want to know whether things are normal. Now, I find that it is a little bit funny, because what's normal to one person is completely different to what's normal to another person. A lot of the time you'll find that when you go in the gym, you'll have days where you're feeling awesome and you'll have days where you're feeling like average. And I'm here to tell you that that's very normal. It's just looking at like the amount of days that are good compared to the amount of days that are bad. And if the amount of days that are bad start really taking over the amount of good days, then you probably need to reassess whether you're doing too much volume in the gym, you're doing too many training days, not enough recovery, whether it's time to have a deload from training, whether you're not looking after yourself in the sense of sleep, nutrition, recovery, everything like that. So I know that she said, oh, well, you know, other than sleep and this and that, and it's like, we shouldn't just brush that under the rug. Sleep and nutrition and hydration is a massive reason why you might be feeling like shit going into a training session. So you can't really just ignore those variables and hope that you're just going to feel fab when those things aren't under control. So I would say if you have a day where your lifting is really crappy in the gym, look at not only like that day, what you've done, but also like a couple of days before. How's your sleep been consistently for like the last 4 or 5 days? How's your nutrition been for the last 4 or 5 days? How's the digestive system? How are you feeling mentally going into the session? Are you stressed? Are you run down? All of these things need to be considered, which is a massive, massive one. The other one that I want to talk about here is mindset going in. A big one is sometimes you can talk yourself out of the lift before you even achieve it, and that's a massive, massive one. I am pretty headstrong when I train, and if I've got numbers to hit and I have a program, I really enjoy it when I've got my weights already preset for me. So say, for example, when I was getting ready for my powerlifting comp, I would look at my program and say 1 week I would have to hit, 3 triples on 110 kilos. And I'd look at that and be like, fuck, that's heavy. Like, I haven't done that before. But for me, I saw it as a challenge and I found that motivating to hit. and I'd want to go in and nail it because I'd know the next week I have to do even heavier than that. So I'd have to do, okay, now the next week is 112 for triples. And that was enough to really keep me on track and mentally go, well, I need to make these jumps. And if someone's programmed this for me, they know that I'm capable of this. And I think that's a big thing. I do similar with my clients where I program them resistance to HIIT. And then some of them are on linear or non-linear periodization, depending on the client. But I will often program weights, not just as a way of like keeping track of volume, but as a way of pushing them mentally to know they can hit those numbers. Because a lot of the time, people just aren't used to pushing themselves. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's not, it's very different and individual. And again, that's why I'm saying that it's completely different how you see your mindset going into the gym. For me, for example, I am very damn competitive, and if I have a weight to hit, I will hit that weight. And I know that I have to be kind to myself some days. And again, same with me. I might have 1 out of 10 sessions where I don't hit my numbers, and then I reassess everything and go, okay, I probably need a little deload. Everything's a bit sore. I'm a bit stiff, and that happened a lot in my powerlifting prep. The last couple of weeks, my deadlift started feeling really, really shitty. I was finding that pulling anything over 130, 135 felt heavy. But my squats and my bench felt pretty good. And then when I looked at my programming, I was deadlifting once a week at the end of a heavy block, and so I was squatting and benching twice a week prior to that. So by the time I got to my deadlift day, I was pretty fried. And so what I changed around was I moved the deadlifts to the middle of the week, and I put my second squat session at the end and pulled the volume down a little bit on the second session, it was more of a speed session, and my numbers went up and they started improving again. So it can be a case of like how you're structuring your week as well. If your lifting's too close together and then one lift's affecting another, that can be a big thing. So looking at all of that and then not letting it get you down. Like the worst thing that you can do is get in a negative headspace just because you don't hit a number. Like who cares? Move on from it. Try it again next week, but also don't just brush it under the rug. Like figure out why you're not hitting those numbers and take accountability for that rather than just being like, oh, I've gotten weaker, because it doesn't happen that simply. Case in point being, after I'd been struggling to pull 130 for like doubles and triples in my prep, I went and hit, 160, was it 165? No, 160, 165 in my comp, and that was completely fine. Because again, we periodized into that. And when you're also hitting intensity, you're going to be sore, you're going to be fatigued, all of these things are going to happen. You're just going to have to deal with it and get through it, but then also make sure that you're listening to your body. So I know that was a bit of a general answer, but it is, what I'm trying to say is that how you feel in your gym session is completely individual, and that there's no normal across the board for everyone. But I'm saying that it is normal to have days where you're struggling to hit your lifts. And like I said, as long as that's not happening more frequently than the days that you are hitting your lifts, then you know you're in a pretty good position. And it's just feeding back to your coach, obviously you're a client of mine, and feeding back and saying, hey, I haven't hit my numbers for the last 3 weeks. And then we can really reassess everything and go, okay, well, we need to change them, or we need to look at your week, pull some volume out, whatever it is, to make that adjustment. So I hope that helps. Okay. Cool. So a big one I had from one of my clients, probably something that we need to talk about together as well. One of my comp clients, so Kayla, asked 2 things I struggle with daily in my head, which are basically how, not really sure what the question is specifically, but she says balancing work and comp prep and what to prioritize / time management / productivity. That's a very, very general question again, so I'm not really sure how to tackle that one with a quick response. But yeah, I think the biggest one is that, look, with comp prep, if you make the commitment to do comp prep, you know you have to prioritize it. And I don't know how many times I have this conversation with people where they think comp prep's going to be fun and it's going to be sunshine and rainbows and they're going to have this amazing body and they're still going to be able to do everything else in their life perfectly and it's all going to go swimmingly. That is not what happens with a comp prep, guys. All right? That does not happen. You have to take time for certain things when you're prepping. You have to take time to meal prep. You have to take time to mobilize so you don't get injuries, to look after yourself, whether it be chiro, physio. You have to take time to make sure that you're getting enough sleep, because your sleep's so important. You have to take time to get extra training in, whether that be longer gym sessions or cardio. You have to take time to practice posing. All of these things are extra on top of your life. So if you're entering into a prep and your life is already crazy, do not do it. I repeat, do not do it. It's just a personal choice, and your coach is not going to be the one that's responsible for making that decision. That is 100% on you. Now, your coach may make suggestions. So I've had clients before, and specifically this one as well, that I said to her when we started prep, I said, you're going to have to pull back on a few things, and if you're not willing to do that, then we shouldn't be prepping. So I think the thing with this is, you're not Wonder Woman. You can't expect to be Wonder Woman and do everything and not fall apart. But at the same time, sometimes we have to put on our big girl panties and toughen up and realize that if you want to do this and do well in a comp and get into the best shape you possibly can, it's going to be hard. Not every day is going to be fantastic. You're going to be tired. Sometimes you're not going to want to train, and you just got to get shit done. And comp prep is hard. If it wasn't hard, every single person out there would be getting it on stage. And that's a massive one. Now, also balancing personal life is difficult too. And then she's asked about productivity and time management. That, again, is such a big question, but at the end of the day, there's not going to be one thing that works for everyone. Everyone has different schedules, different work, what they do. And again, a coach is not someone that organizes your time management. A coach is someone there to give you a plan. I help my clients a lot with those sort of things, but at the end of the day, that needs to come down to your own personal responsibility of being more organized with your life and looking at your week, planning things out. I'm a big believer in lists and planning and sticking to that plan and being accountable to that plan. But in saying that, also making sure you're planning in downtime. That is a big one, because if you're comp prepping, you've got all these things going on and you're being really organized and you're working as much as you can, being productive with your time, but then you don't actually plan in any like downtime, just chill time, like an hour to watch TV or like an hour to just like have a nap or whatever it is, then you're gonna like explode and you're gonna burn out. So a big one I would say is look at your week, look at where you spend the most time, and then try to go through all of that and arrange where you can pull time from or what you can get rid of, and remove the things that you're wasting time doing. So a big one for me that I'm learning about and still improving on, one of my goals is social media. I don't believe that I waste time on social media. I'm not someone anymore, and I've worked on this because I realized how much time I was wasting, but I don't sit there and troll through Instagram or troll through Facebook. I go on there into my Facebook coaching groups. I would check it usually twice a day, answer any questions from my clients, do my job, be there and support them. And then generally I have to do social media posts for coaching, and then I also help out with the Macro Snack social media. So I have that, and then I also have Snapchat, then I also have YouTube, I also have my podcast. So it is a lot, and it's pretty much a full-time job just managing my social media. And people forget that you're not getting paid for that either. So that is a big thing where I had to draw the line and say, all right, well, I'm not being paid. This is not helping me financially, but I want to help people, and I care about my social media, and I care about helping people. But I had to pull back and go, okay, that's fine, but I'm going to spend more time on my website and my membership and giving content to those people who are actually paying for my time and my clients. So that's why I prioritize answering the questions in my client groups over, say, answering messages from different people on Facebook or comments on my page or whatever it is, and not just sitting there and just trolling through social media and wasting so much time. That's a big one you can definitely cut time from, so checking what you're doing on social media. Another big one is obviously just like mindless TV watching. I don't really do that, so it's not as much of an issue for me. Generally speaking, I train at night, so I won't come home until 7-8 o'clock, and then me and Sean will be in the kitchen, but that's kind of when we catch up on our day, chat, cook dinner together, sit down, eat together. We don't really like watch TV religiously or really have any shows that we're that into. And then it's pretty much like shower, get ready for bed. I might do work in the evening if I'm going to do anything I don't tend to do like emails or client work, but I'll do like sometimes in the evening a bit of YouTube editing or video cropping, that sort of thing, podcasting, stuff that I don't really find stressful on my brain, because that's a big one before bed, making sure that you're not doing things that are mentally super stimulating. And I actually enjoy editing video content. I have fun with it, putting music in, all of that. I don't find it stressful. So I believe that like do things before bed that aren't going to add stress to your plate. So if I opened up my emails and started seeing all these emails from clients and things, I'd start thinking about work again, rather than leaving them till the morning and getting them on top of them as soon as I wake up in the morning. Now, a big one with time management is getting routines. And I know as a personal trainer, as this client is that's asked this question, it can be very, very hard to have a routine as a PT, because some mornings you're going in super early, some mornings you're finishing late, your shifts are all over the place. I know those feels. I did it for 10 years. I've actually this week pretty much like quit PT. I'm only really coming in on a Thursday evening for some clients and some group sessions, and a Saturday morning, and that is it. I've made that decision because I'd like to have a routine. I haven't had one for 10 years in the morning. So that is my goal, because I felt like it was something in my life that when I would get up at 5 a.m. or earlier, 4:30 a.m. now where we live, to drive to work for morning clients, that it was throwing out the rest of my day. I wouldn't get home till 8 or 9. I wasn't eating till 8 or 9. I hadn't got to spend time with my partner or my dogs in the morning, and I wouldn't be on my emails till later. I had no time for myself. So basically my day was like clients like 4:30, 5 a.m. till 8, 9. I wouldn't get home till 10, and then I'd be on my emails all day, programming all day, and then it would get to like 5, 6 o'clock, and then I'd either drive all the way back to the gym to train, or I'd train more clients at night, and then I would be back again working. So it just became too much. So another thing you want to look at is where you're spending your time and what you can pull back on. And it's not always about money. I think that's a big one. Like for me, I'm probably taking, a pretty big chunk of a pay cut a week by pulling back on personal training. But for me, that comes down to happiness and where I value my happiness. And I'm completely fine with taking a pay cut for my own happiness and my own sanity and a little bit of me time, because I was not enjoying being in the gym myself. My training was going to shit, all of these sort of things. And that was another thing. I couldn't comp prep. I knew that, and I was honest with myself about that, going, I'm doing way too many things to put the pressure on myself of getting back on stage. So that's something that you'll also have to make that decision. If you're choosing to comp prep and do all those things, and you're trying to be Superwoman and do everything in the world, then it's something that you probably shouldn't be doing. And if you're already in that situation where you are prepping and you're realizing that it's all building up, I would say try to cut the fat, trim things where you can. What you can pull back on is going to be the best thing to do. I know some areas you won't be able to pull back on, but where you can, do it, and just get through it until the end of prep, and then reassess things after that. I won't talk too much about this topic again, but so basically to summarize, time management is key. I'm still improving on it myself, and it's something that I like to work on. So I have certain days, especially now that I'm mainly working from home, I need to be productive. Just because you're working at home, it does not mean you're not working as hard, if not harder than others. I work my ass off. I don't really leave my office. Even though I'm working from home, it's still pretty much a home office. I don't go and sit and watch TV or, just go play with the dogs all during the day, which I'd love to. But I make sure that I'm trying to factor those things in as well, because otherwise you can kind of get stuck. Like some days, I've had days where I get on my computer at 6 a.m. and I look at the clock and it's 6 p.m. and I literally haven't moved besides to maybe go and get a coffee or get something to eat. And then I'm like, oh shit, I haven't gone for a walk or hung out with the dogs or whatever it is. So that's a massive one, is time management. So now I've set reminders in my phone to say, have a break from work, get up from your desk, go walk the dogs, go to the park, and then come back. Because with procrastination as well, which is a big problem that a lot of people have, is that procrastination will occur when you're not, obviously it happens and you're not being productive. So a lot of the time, if you stop being productive and you're starting to really lose your train of thought, and I find that a lot sometimes when I'm programming a lot, I need to go clear my head. So just getting up, stretching your legs out, going for a walk, even just having 5 minutes out in the sunshine can be all you need to get your brain switched back on. So I know these were very general answers, but as I said, it's a hard one, and it comes down to your like what you're doing personally, and then figuring out what things you can say no to, what things you can say yes to, and just being a bit more chilled about the whole thing. Like, comp prep's not that serious. Like, just chilling the fuck out and finding where you can pull back, you know, not feeling like you have to say yes to everything, not giving a fuck if you say no to certain things. I'm not super social when I prep, and I still go out and probably eat out once a week. But I'll say no to more like social events that are more than like a few hours long, where I have to be out late at night because I know sleep's a priority. It's okay to say no to those sort of things, and know that depending on how serious you're taking prep, like it's important to pull back where you have to. All right, another one now I'm going to ask. This one is in my Team Round Facebook support group. So if you do want to jump in that group, it's pretty cool. I jump in their Facebook lives, we ask a lot of questions, so you can be a part of that. It does sync up with the website membership as well, so that's what you kind of get for that $2 a week as well. You get to be a part of that. So I had a question in there. So basically I had one saying, I'm always so tired. This is from Christy Allen in the group. Obviously I need to focus on sleep, rest days, anything, etc., supplements, etc., you would talk about in terms of sleep. All right, I'm going to say one with sleep. Not sleep, and energy, so always tired. That is something that people don't often talk about, is calories. If you're not eating enough calories, you will be constantly tired, moody, hungry, fatigued. So that's my number one. I would look at your diet and your nutrition before you look at supplements. If you're not eating enough food, or you're not getting in the right type of nutrients, if you're not consuming enough carbohydrates, or even healthy fats for brain function, you're going to be tired as fuck and cranky and moody. I see it all the time with my clients, especially women not eating enough fat in their diets. They're really moody, they have low libido, they're tired. So I want you to look at that first, Christy. Have a look at your nutrition. If you're in a caloric deficit, I would suggest maybe if you're tired all the time to get out of it. I think that energy is way more important than dropping body fat or staying ultra peeled all the time. So focus on that first. In terms of supplements, you can get most of the nutrients you need from energy from your diet. So again, it's going to come down to nutrient timing. If you're timing your carbohydrates efficiently for energy, so heavier carb intakes, post-workout, pre-workout, enough carbs to fuel your recovery, have you feeling good, fuel your brain function. I'm a big believer in eating carbs. Having enough fats during the day, they really help with your brain function, with your focus, with your overall mood, and also just balance of food breakdown, slow that digestive system down a little bit, and protein at even times throughout the day. So they're my big things in terms of that. I would also be getting a lot more antioxidant rich foods in your diet. So fruits and vegetables are going to be amazing for energy, because they're going to have things like vitamin C in them, vitamin E, so many vital things. And then also looking at B vitamins. So B vitamins are going to be in your white meat, a bit in red meat, in eggs, things like that. If you're low in B vitamins, you'll be very tired and fatigued. And often iron deficiency and B vitamin deficiency are two things that are like kind of hard to diagnose which one it is until you get blood tests and get your iron done. And sometimes people's iron will be fine, but their B vitamins are really out of whack. And rather than going and getting like a B vitamin injection, like just change your diet. If you don't eat meat, then a lot of people that don't eat meat have B vitamin deficiencies, and then a lot of the time we'll get them to supplement with that. But my number one thing is, don't use supplements if you don't have to. Eat good food, eat better, look after your body in that way. And then if you are someone that has intolerances or preferences, so you're vegan or vegetarian, then you may need a supplement. So the other big one is iron. Try to eat iron-rich foods if you're very fatigued. So red meat, eggs, spinach, chickpeas, all of these sort of things are very high in iron. Another big one is iron absorption. So you may want to see a doctor or a GP and get them to check your iron levels and your iron absorption, because you may be having issues there. But again, you need to get that medically checked before you just start throwing supplements in, because it might be a waste of money. You might not need them, or if you are having supplements but they're not being absorbed, then that's a waste of money. So you need to look at all these variables before you just go willy-nilly, like chucking sups in here and there. And that's why I kind of hate giving out supplement recommendations in general to like someone that I'm not working with, because I don't think that it's ethical just saying to someone, you need to go get iron, or you need to go buy B vitamins, you need to go buy this, that's going to fix what's going on, when I have no idea what you're eating, what you're training, all of that. Obviously, another big one with energy is sleep, like making sure that you're getting enough sleep, factoring in that, looking at stress, looking at so many other factors that can affect your energy. Another big one is overtraining. So if you're training too much or doing too much cardio, basically if you're just like pushing yourself so much, you might need to pull back and have like a week off, or have a deload. Have you had a break from training in a while? Look at all these factors, Christy, and really assess, is it just a supplement that's going to do the job? No, unfortunately it's going to be other things, and I'm here to tell you that that's why often it's a really good idea to get a coach to help you figure all these things out, and go through it all and determine that, because that's going to improve and upgrade your life quality by doing that. And it's a big investment. I just don't understand when people sometimes have so many problems like that they come to me with, but yet they won't invest in coaching. And it's like, Jesus, like you'll spend, thousands once you end up in hospital because of these problems. Like I had someone with diabetes the other day, and they didn't want to pay for like nutrition. And I was like, I'm trying to make a living here, but at the same time, there's only so much free advice I can give. And like, you have severe diabetes and you have no idea what to eat. Like, that is very dangerous if you're just going out there and buying some plan off the internet, or not investing in yourself. You're going to end up in hospital and being in a messed up position. And I'm by no means someone with a sales pitch, but sometimes I get people that I'm just like, oh my God, you actually like need my help. And they're the ones that I really love working with. But unfortunately, sometimes those people don't see it as enough of a priority, because they don't realize how much bad nutrition or bad training is affecting their life. And they're just wanting some pill or potion or something to fix it. And it's like, guys, it doesn't happen that easily. You have to actually put in the work. So I know I'm going a little bit off topic, but it's just something I'm super, super passionate about. Is I'm just sick to death of people messaging me and being like, hey, can you tell me what supplement to buy that's going to fix this? And I'm like, oh my God, like, look after your nutrition, look after your diet, like, change things in your lifestyle. Like, look at things like that before you just go to the shops and waste money on some crap supplement and whatever shitty sales pitch someone in a sup store tries to talk to you. They're just trying to make money. Like, at the end of the day, they don't care about your health. Like, they're just trying to make money off a sale. So look at that. All right, I'm going to do one more, because I said I would do 10, but I might have to split this over to 2 parts, because it is going for a very long period of time. So I hope you've been enjoying it thus far. So last question. All right, last one for this Q&A is from one of the girls in my coaching group, Maz. So she was asking in simple terms, I'll clean it up, it's about a paragraph long, but she was basically asking, in terms of macros and hitting your targets, and you're wanting to be spot on with them, how do you pre-plan your meals for that? Okay, well, the whole point of macro tracking is that you don't pre-plan all of your meals, that you're just trying to go through the day and plan them in. Now, in saying that, some people do like to pre-plan their meals. I generally pre-plan a couple of meals a day, but I don't generally pre-plan all of my meals. So what I mean by that is I'll generally like plug in like breakfast, maybe lunch, maybe a pre-workout meal. I usually eat 4 to 5 meals a day, and then depending on what time I wake up, and then I won't plan in my dinner, and I'll just hit my dinner with those macros. So if I get home from the gym and I'm like, all right, I've got 40 grams of protein to eat, 60 grams of carbs, and like 10 grams of fat, what can I eat for that? So then I'll go weigh out or plug in whatever I need to plug in to get it spot on to hit those numbers. So that's pretty much how I do it. You don't want to spend too much time on MyFitnessPal a day. So I find that having a few meals that you're like regularly having is kind of an easy way of doing it. I generally eat a lot of the same foods, same meals. I'll just kind of rotate them, or switch out vegetables, switch out protein. And as well, you don't need to be 100% bang on. And that's a big one. I think people put so much pressure on like nailing their macros 100%. My rule with my clients is try to be within 5%, and whether that's over or under, then I'm pretty happy with that. And that to me is 100%. So what I mean by that is, generally speaking, I say up to 10 grams either side of protein and carbs ideally, and within 5 grams of fat, because fat yields a lot more calories. Now, in terms of a meal planning to hit your macros, I'm not really sure what advice to give there, because I think it's pretty straightforward. Like, pick the foods out that you enjoy, plug them in, see how much you can eat of everything to have it hit your macros. And then if you want to eat the same things for a couple of days, then go nuts, and then maybe every couple of days switch it up, or even once a week switch it up, so that you're not having the same nutrients all day every day, because eventually over time you may be lacking in micronutrients from eating the same foods day in, day out, which can be a big one that a lot of people do when they quote unquote eat a lot of like clean eating plans, where it's just like the same food. So I always try to switch up things. I'll have points where I'll completely like take eggs out of my diet, maybe replace that with some red meat, all of these sort of things, or I'll switch up my veggies, switch up my types of fats. So I might have a week where I've had a lot of nuts and, I don't know, cheese, olive oil. The next week it might be coconut oil, avocado, some whole eggs, that sort of thing. So switching everything up is really important. And then also like planning in some recipes and meals. I find it a lot easier personally if you, like I said before, you have a couple of meals that are pretty much the same or similar things that are regiment most days, and then you leave 1 or 2 meals where you can be a bit more flexible and allow that flexibility, so that you're not feeling like you're on a meal plan at the end of the day. That's the whole point of flexible dieting. But you need to do what works for you. And if you're someone that prefers that rigidity of a meal plan and that structure, and you're really, really busy and you don't eat any meals at home, which not most people are like that. Most people eat at least 1 meal at home a day. Then I would highly encourage that you don't plan your dinners, because if you want to eat with your family or friends, how are you going to do that when you're stuck on this like rigid meal plan? So getting away from the point of flexible dieting. So I'd say be flexible, plan out a few things. I also tend to have a lot of food prepped in my fridge, but not in individual meals, and that's really handy as well. So what I mean by that, to save me time, is I'll cook off a lot of chicken, I'll make some salad for a few days. I'll generally have stuff ready to put together, but then when I get home, and let's say I've missed a meal and I have to hit 50 grams of protein instead of 30, and I've already got a meal weighed out and it's 100 grams of chicken, well, that's not going to cut it. So what do you do then? Well, what you do is you basically leave extra meat in the fridge so that if you need to add to it, you can. And a lot of people will really struggle with that, but I find that like the easiest thing to do is just not have the meals completely weighed out and allow that flexibility around meals. It's the same with if you come home and you've got to eat, like you thought you were going to have 50 grams of carbs left and you ate something that day, and now you've only got 25 and you've already pre-weighed out your rice for that meal, rather than just leaving a bowl of it in the fridge and then, okay, well, I'm only having 25 grams. Well, I'll have a third of a cup of rice instead of half a cup. That makes it a lot easier and a lot less stressful. So I'm going to leave it there for this podcast. I will split this into a 2-parter because there is a lot more questions. I haven't really gone through the ones off Snapchat and Instagram and stuff yet. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. I love doing these sort of ones, and I'll do more extended YouTube videos as well. So be sure that you have subscribed to the YouTube channel for updates, and any gym related questions I'll try to answer with actual physical stuff in the gym as well. So thanks again for tuning in, and I will chat to you soon. Thank you for listening to another episode of Breakthrough the Bullshit. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love it if you could leave a review on iTunes. Let me know, comment what you'd love to see more of, and be sure you've also subscribed on YouTube and iTunes for updates. And if you'd like more info, then you can also add the Team Round Support Facebook page, which is available to access for all of you, and you just simply need to search for it on Facebook.